Hello and welcome to the American Recut. My name is Nick.
And my name is Brendan. Tonight's movie is Shazam. We all have a superhero inside us, it just takes a bit of magic to bring it out. In Billy Batson's case, by shouting out one word, Shazam, this streetwise 14-year-old can turn into a grown-up superhero called Shazam. This movie brought to you by David F. Sandberg and writer Henry Gayton.
Alright, now I want to note, as far as that synopsis goes, we got that straight from the IMDb page, and we thought that was a joke.
Oh, it was awful.
We searched through a couple of different sites, we looked for a proper intro by the company, and it turns out that's a synopsis that Warner Brothers gave out. Now, I want to take a moment to talk about the art of the synopsis, because typically the general advice is you go about 27 words with a synopsis, one sentence, and you make it a fairly smooth summary of everything to happen. That was 2 sentences, use specific names, and brought in the name of the movie twice.
Yeah, I mean...
It didn't tell me anything.
It was so awkward to read, and the enthusiasm, the opening line, there's a hero inside all of us. Like, no, that was just stupid to read. I hated reading it. I can only do so much.
Now, that said, what was your quick one-sentence feelings on Shazam?
Shazam. Quirky, entertaining, and humorous. That's my interview on Shazam.
Yeah, likewise, I also deeply enjoyed Shazam just because it has a strong script. It's a very nuts and bolts director who got everything together for it, and it all comes together very well, especially with DC standards in mind.
Oh yeah, especially with DC standards in mind. Yeah.
All right, now the first thing I want to talk about as far as Shazam is the story of Shazam, which I feel like the story was actually not the strongest element of it, but it was good.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was feasible, I mean, again, going by DC standards.
Now, if you're going into Shazam, don't go in there expecting, like, some mega deep or incredible plot that's going to blow you off your feet. It's a very cut and dry, bad guy, superhero, origin story type of thing.
Right.
Like, we all know how this goes. But it follows the beats well. It's never anything where you get thrown by the story, you don't get taken out of it. It works well enough on its own, despite following basic beats.
All right. Now, with the story out of the way, let's go to the characters that support this story. And in my opinion, the characters are what really draw you in. Their banter, their dialogue, it's just, it's so much fun.
Agreed. This movie has a lot of very strong characters in it. You have all of the members of Barry Baxter's family. Barry himself, who actually comes across very well as a character. He's well written, and he has some depth to him, both as someone who has flaws and strengths to him, which ultimately he overcomes and grows into over the movie.
Yeah.
The villain is understandable. He has a relatable kind of motivation to him as a villain. And even the child actors, who normally I'm annoyed by child actors and don't like them, but I didn't have this problem here. These child actors all felt like they did well, and they felt like they read their lines well and were fairly approachable and enjoyable.
I agree. No, I mean, the child actors brought energy to these characters, in contrast to, like, say, in Dumbo, where some of the child actors, as we mentioned before,
were child actors, yeah,
and incredibly monotone. Like, no, that's
yeah. There's a lot of bad child actors out there. This is one of the few movies that defied that and actually used them well.
Very well done.
Similarly, on a similar note, the effects of this movie, much like the story, are fairly out of the way. They're low expense, but they're used sparingly, but well enough that you do get some great moments out of it. You get some good cinematography, some good shots that make up for the low effects budget of this movie. And it really shines as a movie because it has to lean much more on its strong script and its interesting characters instead of just being a blowout fight. Like, this is basically the opposite of Aquaman in many ways.
Yeah.
Where Aquaman was this very overblown, way over the top extravaganza of nonstop fighting, no dialogue, just very a bad story, too much CGI. This had the opposite effect, where it was very low on CGI, fights are scarce, and we have much more dialogue and talking between characters, which makes it a much stronger movie.
Which is really refreshing, considering that most superhero movies right now seem to rely heavily upon CGI effects. So this was welcome.
Finally, let's get back to the themes of the movie, which, I mean, they're pretty basic themes, you know.
Yeah.
Family is good. Believe in yourself.
Yeah.
Don't assume that everybody can be pure on their own, so on. Like, they're pretty basic themes, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't get in the way. This is a movie that's much more about the comedy at the core of it.
Oh, yeah.
And being about just enjoying itself as a comic book movie and not taking itself seriously.
Yes, I agree. That's especially the beauty of it. This movie does not take itself seriously, where you do see...
Well, I wouldn't say that. I'd say it takes itself seriously where it needs to for the story, but it has a core that is comedy.
But it acknowledges, right, yeah, its core is comedy because it does acknowledge, like, okay, we're doing a superhero movie, come on. Let's have fun with it, you know?
Which, this is the first time in a long time we've had a superhero movie where we can just laugh at the comic book stupidity sometimes.
I agree.
I mean, like, one of the things this movie doesn't do is we don't have that scene where, you know, they show the character shows up in the old-fashioned superhero outfit and then says, "I want to change it to something a bit more modern." And then we get, like, the modern, overly designed, terrible uniform. No, it's just this really cheesy outfit the whole movie.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful.
I agree. Now, before we end this version of the American Recut, let me just ask you this one question. Would you recommend seeing it in theaters?
Thoroughly. I would absolutely recommend seeing this in theaters. This is the first time that DC has turned around and is actually looking like they're moving towards an interesting direction that's not following in Marvel steps, but is instead going in their own direction with trusting these smaller writers and smaller directors.
Which,
I thoroughly recommend it.
Yeah, me too. Because, I mean, this kind of ups the standard for DC, you know? I mean, it gives me optimism for DC's new and upcoming movies. So, and it does have a decent roster of heroes, so fingers crossed.
Yep, I enjoyed this movie thoroughly, and I still recommend it. Join us for the Ramble On, where we'll talk about some minor nitpicks here and there, and probably talk about what this might mean for DC in going into the future and optimism for the brand.
Yep.
This has been Nick.
This has been Brendan.